fail only because the world demands a name. The rest of him is a system made of habits and rules, the kind that take years to polish and a lifetime to keep. He never kills close to home, never repeats a method in the same district, never takes a trophy anyone would notice missing. He is the kind of man who vanishes from photographs not by trickery, but by posture, shoulders angled, eyes turned, a presence designed to be the faintest possible version of human. He tells people he consults for small tech firms and boutique law practices that need data restored from old drives. The job is true enough to pass casual questions and vague enough to end most conversations. He is careful with conversation, not because he is shy, but because it is a currency, and he knows the exchange rate better than anyone. He pays only in small coins. Ethan meets her at a coffee shop that treats lighting as a seduction and sugar as a suggestion. The place is all hand-lettered chalk and reclaimed wood, the kind of warmth that makes you forgive stale muffins and gospel-sized receipts. She is alone at the bar with a paperback folded backward, reading as if the page owed her money. She looks up and the barista fumbles the lid. 2 seconds. A scan of the room. Back to the book. It is a small thing, but Ethan notices small things. The scan is practiced. The kind that starts wide and narrows to exits, mirrors, hands. It is not fear. It is training. Her name is Harper Reed. She says it as if she wants it to be over with. Harper is an architect. She says, it lands like a test. Ethan smiles, nods, asks nothing. The lie is a professional one, clean, useful, the kind that dissolves in the mouth. He does not press her, and something loosens behind her eyes. He knows how to do that for people, lead their lives, standing until they are grateful for the privacy. They see each other again because the city is engineered for repetition. The same corner at the same hour, the same train, the same Saturday farmer's market where fruit is arranged by color as if the spectrum were edible. She is in line for coffee again, to spaces ahead of him, and he says her name like he is testing pronunciation. She looks down, surprised, and the surprise changes to something like relief. She lets him catch up. He knows better than to want. Wanting is a leak. It makes a man forget that he is a system. But there is a gravity to Harper that reminds him of the swim team he watched as a child. How the strongest move quietest. She walks with the kind of economy he admires in machinery. She laughs rarely, and when she does, it is quick and unembarrassed. She eats without apologizing for hunger. She asks him nothing for long stretches and then lands a question like a hammer after measuring 3 times. He watches her hands. There is a ridge along the back of the right thumb, a scar that is not medical or domestic. It is a story cut short. There is a callus along the proximal joint of both trigger fingers, faint, not recent. There is the way she carries her shoulder bag high and tucked, the strap tight, the bag itself slimmer than fashion would like, as if it were originally chosen to stay out of the way of a seat belt and a radio cord. None of these things are proof, and Ethan does not make a habit of proving a thing before it needs to be true. He files the details and lets them cool on their 4th meeting, which neither of them names a date out loud. They sit by the window of a dim restaurant whose menu acts like a locked door. The server is the kind who thinks familiarity is a tip. Ethan throws up small fences and conversation questions returned as jokes, answers watered down. Harper plays along. When she does answer, she answers with precision, as if languages. A tape measure. She tells him her favorite bridge in the city is the one nobody photographs. She tells him she hates crosswalk countdowns because she can't stop doing the math. She tells him she keeps her television on for 6 minutes after turning it off, just to prove she can. He asks what she does when she can't sleep. She says she drives. They turn into a ritual, without calling it one. Wednesday nights become a fixed star. Saturday afternoons become a frame. He learns that she favors shoes she can run in even when she has nowhere to be. He learns that she reads novels, the way some people listen to crime podcasts searching for the scaffolding. He learns that she shuts down when the conversation touches certain streets, certain dates, certain kinds of failures. He learns these things the way he learned himself, by repetition, by the rhythm of what is not said. Ethan never kills during this season. That is not sentiment, it is math. New variables require clear baselines. He keeps his radius small, his visits to storage silent, his habits hermetic. He checks the news the way a person checks weather. The waterline murders he allows the press their nicknames have cooled into think pieces and long-form audio grief. He has planned it so. He has always preferred to let public interest die before the subject does. Every rule he respects has rewarded him. He tells himself Harper is simply a study in control. He tells himself that he is drawn to structure in any form it takes. He tells himself what he needs to hear because it keeps the system running. It even works. Until it does not. The first fracture arrives late and quiet, like a hairline crack. That remembers it is glass. It is a small rectangle, steel and leather, half hidden in her coat closet, tucked into a pocket, stitched into a pocket. She asks him to hang his jacket. He opens the door and hears the clatter of metal sliding against a shelf. He has already trained his hand not to pause when it wants to. He reaches for the hanger. He sets his coat down. He takes a step deeper, turns the nearest sleeve enough to keep it from blocking his view. He sees the edge of a leather fold-out and a pin-locked lanyard. The small rectangle flashes gold under the coat's hem and then disappears again as the fabric settles. He closes the closet like it mattered less than the weather. Later, when she leans over the couch to pick up her glass, the hem of her shirt rides up and he sees the faint outline of a band of nylon, the width a police duty belt would leave on the body after years of wearing one, or a utility belt for construction, or a camera rig. or any other explanation that a man could live with if he needed to. He does not need to not yet. He does what he has trained himself to do. He builds a window through which he can throw the desire to know. He leaves it on the sill. He decides he will not look through it. He wonders if this is what other people mean when they say trust. One of Harper's rituals is a stop at a charity shop where old objects go to decide whether they are relics or trash. She likes to try on stories. Ethan likes to see what people part with easily. It is in a shop like this that they find the trunk. It is brass-bound, heavy. To clean, Harper tests the lid, the weight of it in her hands. She smiles at the lock and says that locks are only small arguments. The seller warns her that the trunk is not as old as it looks. She buys it anyway. They carry it to her apartment to floors up. She lets him hold the door with his foot while she maneuvers the turn in the stairwell like a person who is carried worse. She tells him to set it by the window. He sees her eyes find the space beneath her bed where the trunk will soon live. That night, after they open it and find nothing inside but a canceling smell of cedar and dust, Harper kneels by the latch and runs her finger across the catch. It is a simple lock. It wants to be opened. She closes it again. She does not lock it. She slides it under the bed with the care of a person who knows the direction of her own future. Ethan does not search her apartment because searching would be a confession. And yet his hands remember measures when she goes to brush her teeth. He studies the books on her shelf, the pattern of creases, the frequency of used bookmarks. When she showers, he looks at the floor of her closet and counts scuffs and pairs, heel to toe. The kind of snug ankle holster leaves in leather. He finds nothing obvious, and the absence itself becomes a presence. He is calm until the night the city gives them a harbor. They sit on a bench that faces water that knows how to pretend it is lake and ocean both. It is cold, but not in a way that matters. The sky is a perfect and indifferent thing. They talk the way people do when the view does most of the work. Harper tells him she used to come here after long shifts at a job she does not name. Ethan tells her a story about a classmate who wanted to be a magician and disappeared into accounting instead. They laugh like people in a commercial for phones above the bar where they will eventually eat. The television runs closed captions with the sound off. The headline repeats itself every few minutes like an accusation. Task force renews focus on Waterline case. The text slides on to say a name he has taught himself not to flinch at. He does not look up the first time, the second time. He keeps his eyes on Harper and sees her pupils change shape. A tiny dilation that reads like rage when you know where to look. The third time, he watches her jaw settle the way a boxer's stance sets. Weight low, ready. It is not grief, it is a pledge. He tells himself it could be 100 things. It could be a friend or a neighbor or a brother or a stranger whose story nested inside her. It could be old anger. It could be an essay she read. It could be anything at all that people carry around, like live wires. But when the server brings their drinks and the screen scrolls a photograph of a blurred pier and a map of points along the waterline, Harper's eyes do not track the server. They track the graphics with the impatient attention of someone who is done being briefed and wants to act. It is the attention of assignment, not curiosity. They walk, and she says nothing about it. She asks him if he has ever thought about leaving the city. He says he has never stayed in one long enough to know. She nods as if that makes sense. She takes his arm as they cross the street. He admires how quickly she can braid two ideas into one step. The next morning he decides to end it. Ending things is a skill he respects. He rehearses how to let it fold back into ordinary life with minimal friction. He writes lines that let her keep everything she wants to keep. He plans a version of himself that stays a story in someone else's past eating habits. But when he gets to her door that night, there is a lightness in her posture he has not seen before. A lightness that looks unearned until he realizes it is a disguise. She is performing ease. It means she has decided something. He does not know what. He knows the look because he has worn it on nights that ended in water. They cook a quiet choreography. She hands him a knife. It is the wrong kind. He does not correct her. They talk about books that do not matter. She tells him she hates how many writers think the only way to be profound is to be bleak. He tells her he hates how many are right. She smiles without teeth. When she goes to the bedroom to change shirts, she leaves her closet open by an inch and her desk drawer open by a quarter. It is clumsy in a way that intelligent people are only when they want a reaction they can measure. He gives her none. He keeps the conversation flat. He makes her work for it. She excuses herself to take a call on the balcony that is not long enough to be a call. He knows she is listening to silence and timing his patience. He is not insulted. In another life, he would have respected her as a colleague. In this one, he respects her as a problem that is found in with a human face. He goes to the bathroom. He washes his hands not because they are dirty, but because it buys time. The bathroom mirror tells him nothing he didn't know. He dries his hands. He sees through the door left open a polite degree, the corner of the trunk reflecting the hallway. Lamp where it sticks out from under the bed. The latch is not flush. It is a small misalignment, the kind you get when you close something in a hurry, or when you want someone to be tempted by the imperfection. He is, but not in the way she wants. He kneels beside the bed and slides the trunk out with the slow confidence of a person who has lived his life by not touching what he wants to touch. He opens it. There is a notebook on top, the kind detectives buy themselves when budgets buy them. Nothing else in line. Thick paper, elastic closure. The cover is black and unmarked. The edges are scalloped with wear. Beside it lies a leather billfold with a slot for a badge that is empty. That emptiness is the loudest thing in the room. Under the notebook, there is a slim folder printed with a city seal, and a date stamp that says property of. The name on the form is a name he will never forget because it is the one the city gave to the murders along the water. He does not touch the paper. He looks at the photograph clipped to the inside with the paper clip bent out of shape. A photograph of blue tape and yellow paint and a pier that looks like. He has been apologizing for years. He does not need to see the badge to know it exists. He does not need to flip the notebook to know what it holds. He does not need to read the case number to know which case to monitor trunk. A person who wants to catch a ghost keeps her ghosts. Organized. He hears a door slide. He closes the trunk. Slowly, with respect, the way a person closes a casket, he lets the latch sit imperfect again. He stands. He walks to the sink and runs the water so there is the lie of hand washing for anyone who cares to. Believe in small fictions. He turns off the tap and steps into the hallway as if he has never been anyplace else. Harper is at the balcony door, her profile a line he has memorized against glass. She looks back at him with eyes that are to answers deep. She smiles a small smile and asks him if he wants to eat on the balcony or the couch. He says the couch will do. Every word is a bead on a wire pulled tight. He understands now with the clean certainty he trusts more than emotion. He has been dating a detective. Not a detective in the abstract. Not a detective who works fraud or vice or grand theft. A detective with a trunk, a case, and a personal gravity aimed directly at the part of the city where his rules made art. She is not just a detective. She is the detective assigned to the story he has been writing on other people's lives. He tastes the problem the way a mechanic tastes metal at the back of his teeth. He feels the system he has built begin to flex. There is a type of terror people confuse with thrill, and he recognizes that counterfeit at once. He is not thrilled. He is reorganizing. He thinks, leave now and never call again. He thinks, go quiet for a year. He thinks, vanish like a rumor. He thinks, stay. The choice is surgical. Distance is safety. The proximity is control. His rules have always been about control. And the new variable in the equation is intolerable unless he can own it. He realizes something else. Something he does not like as much as he respects it. He wants to stay not only for control. He wants to know her the way surgeons know organs, each nerve mapped, each vessel named. He wants to understand her not because she is a threat, but because she is a design. She brings the bowls to the coffee table and sits, legs tucked under. Casual in the way a trained person gets when pretending to be at home in her home. She asks him about a book he mentioned weeks ago, and then, with the subtlety of a compass needle, steers the talk toward the harbor. She says an old friend used to run there. She says the city never learned how to be kind to its water. She says people underestimate what currents carry. She looks at him when she says it, and he gives her nothing because he has learned from watching rivers. He asks her about her favorite bridge, the one nobody photographs, and she brightens in a way that would have satisfied him yesterday. The meal ends. The bowls are empty. The trunk under the bed waits like a held breath. The night stands between them asking what they will be now that both have seen what they were always going to be. He kisses her at the door. It is the kind of kiss that is staged to be remembered or foregone, depending on how the next week goes. She holds the kiss an inch longer than necessary and then lets it drop. She tells him to text when he gets home. He says he will. It is almost true. On the walk back, Ethan chooses streets with clean lines of sight. He watches reflections in unlit windows. He sees his own shape and does not recognize it. He thinks of every rule he made and how none were written for this. He reaches his apartment and stands in the entry like a man who found a photograph of himself. He does not remember taking. He does not turn on the lights. He does not need to. He goes to the desk where his notebooks live not about victims or methods, but about patterns and people and the systems their lives advertise. He opens to a new page and writes a single line that is not a confession but a circuit closing. Harper Reed is the lead detective on the Waterline case. He writes it. Again, he draws a small square around her name because squares are for structures and circles are for targets. He underlines the word lead because it matters. He does not write the word dating because it is not useful. He does not write the word killer because he does not use the language of newspapers in private. He writes only what is necessary to think. Clearly, he turns the page and begins to list decisions. He catalogs what she does when she lies and what she does when she tells the truth. He notes the width of her patience and the depth of her stubbornness. He assigns scores to her curiosity and her operational security. He finds fault in both. He writes the word leverage and stares at it for a long time. He puts a line through it. He writes proximity and draws the arrows, one toward control and one toward exposure. He writes leave. He writes stay. He looks at the words until they become shapes. He closes the notebook. He places it in a drawer he never uses. He locks the drawer not because it is safe, but because it is a ritual that marks a threshold. He lies down on the floor and stares at the ceiling. He has never been religious, but he understands now why. People light candles and imagine that flame means anything other than chemistry. He imagines nothing. He counts backward from a number that does not matter. In the morning, he wakes at the hour he always wakes, feels the same quiet that has followed him since childhood, and chooses. He will not vanish. He will not end it. He will not stop. He will change the rules. He will play close. He will learn what she knows about him and decide, day by day, which of them is farther from the truth. The system accepts the new variable with a soundless click. The man named Ethan Vale leaves his apartment and goes downstairs into his city. That is already forgiven so much. He buys coffee from a cart. That is a rule he allows himself to break because it does not matter anymore. He texts Harper with the reflex a normal person would recognize as interest. He asks her about her day. She tells him it will be long and leaves out why. He tells her to let him know when it ends. She sends back a single word that makes a promise neither of them will keep exactly. Sure. And in that agreement measured by a single syllable. The hunt becomes a relationship, and the relationship becomes a hunt. And neither is sure which side owns the other. The waterline waits. The trunk waits. The city waits. He steps into the new mathematics of a life measured not only in distance and silence, but in the weight of being known by the one person paid to end him. Harper Reed wakes before dawn. She has never been the kind of detective who needs an alarm. Though her phone dutifully vibrates against the nightstand each morning as if to prove it is still a partner. Her habits are older than her badge. She runs not for health, but for rhythm, a body ritual that keeps the mind sharp. Every mile is a rehearsal for the kind of endurance she will need when the case turns long. And the city turns indifferent. The waterline case has been long already, years of files. Interviews, photographs blurred by rain and bad cameras, families who stopped answering calls, witnesses who moved or changed names, colleagues who rotated to safer work. Harper stayed. Some called it obsession, she called it gravity. There are crimes that bend the world around them, and this is hers. Ethan Vale does not know she thinks of him on these runs. She tells herself it is not about him, not yet, he is simply a variable she studies the way she studies everyone, friends, neighbors, lovers, suspects. A detective does not turn off attention, she only redirects it. Ethan is the rare case where attention feels like attraction, and attraction feels like an experiment that might prove fatal. By daylight, they become ordinary again. They text like civilians, trade jokes about books, plan dinners that look like dates but feel like interrogations wrapped in warmth. Ethan begins to answer her questions with longer sentences, and she begins to notice which subjects make his eyes grow still. He has a way of stopping his face while his mouth continues. The way a mask continues smiling after the actor has stepped away. She keeps track of those moments. He, in turn, studies her. Ethan has never been careless. But now, his attention grows surgical. He counts how often she checks reflections in windows. He measures the pause before she laughs. He notices that she never drinks more than one glass of wine and never lets anyone else drive her car. These are the habits of a woman who has seen danger close enough to know its price. They orbit each other like predators disguised as partners, and neither admits how much they already know. The city breathes its usual chaos, and into that noise comes a new silence, another disappearance along the river. Harper is called in before the press even hears a whisper. The evidence is thin, but the signature is thick enough to make her blood hum. The waterline is not dead. The waterline is returned. She reads the case file at her desk with the patience of a saint and the fury of a soldier. Photos spread across her table like a deck of tarot. The angles are familiar, the precision to exact. Harper feels something coil inside her. Something that whispers the word proximity. Whoever did this has not vanished. He has adapted. That night, Ethan arrives at her apartment with a bottle of wine he will not drink. He sets it on the counter and asks about her day. She tells him it was long. He does not ask why. He cooks while she showers because that is how they rehearse normalcy. In the steam of the bathroom mirror, Harper traces a single word with her finger, trust. Then she wipes it away before the glass can remember. Dinner is quiet, but quiet between them is never empty. Ethan watches her chew with the patience of a man who knows meals can last a lifetime if eaten correctly. Harper lets silence stretch until it feels like a rope. Finally, she says, "Do you ever wonder why people do terrible things?" Ethan answers without pause, because they can. The answer is to fast, to clean. She studies him the way she would study a crime scene, looking for what was moved. He meets her eyes with the calm of a man who has rehearsed this conversation in 100 mirrors. Later, when they sit on the couch, she leans against him as if exhaustion has claimed her. He strokes her arm like a man learning tenderness. Neither moves for a long time, but both are awake in ways the other cannot ignore. Harper knows he is hiding. Ethan knows she is hunting, and both, in their private silences, admit a truth. They will never speak. The game has already begun. The city begins to ache under the weight of rumor. Headlines whisper of the waterline again, though the police refuse to confirm. Families near the river double lock their doors. Joggers change routes. The fear is subtle but spreading. The kind of dread that changes traffic patterns and grocery lists before anyone says the word. Cereal. Harper Reed feels it before she reads it. Every detective learns to sense the rhythm of a city the way a sailor reads currents. Something in the streets has shifted. Her case board, pinned with years of photographs and maps, grows a new cluster of red that throbs like a wound. She spends hours staring at it until the paper blurs and the lines dissolve into the face. She cannot remove from her thoughts Ethan. She reminds herself that suspicion is not proof. She reminds herself that intuition is the cousin of paranoia. Yet every detail she collects about him keeps sliding into place, as if the universe itself were building a case. His late walks, his precise silences, his hunger for patterns, none of it is evidence. All of it is damning. Ethan Vale, meanwhile, watches Harper with the calm patience of a surgeon waiting for anesthesia to take hold. He knows she has seen the new reports. He knows the waterline is alive in her again. He sees it in the new weight of her gaze, the way she lingers on his hands, the way she asks questions that sound casual but measure the temperature of his lies. He has not killed again. That is the point. A copycat is useful. A new body along the river confuses the timeline, breeds doubt and evidence. gives the appearance of a predator who is restless, when in truth, he is precise. Ethan knows how to let chaos fight for him. But Harper is different. She does not want confusion, she wants clarity. And she is too close to him now, close enough to smell the mathematics of his habits. He can feel her circling. He can feel her choosing which night will be the one she decides to test him. They dine again, and the conversation is a duel hidden under candlelight. She speaks of architecture, of bridges and foundations, of how design reveals intention. He counters with stories of systems, of how rules hold the world together when humans are weak. Every sentence is a blade disguised as philosophy. By the end of the meal, they are both bleeding and neither has moved afterward. Harper retreats to her trunk. She opens the notebook and writes Ethan's name at the top of a page she does not want to exist. She lists his behaviors. She lists the coincidences. She lists the moments when his eyes froze and his answers arrived fast. The page fills quickly, and she hates herself for how steady her hand remains. Ethan, alone in his apartment, writes her name too. His list is shorter but sharper. He writes, knows more than she says. He writes, waiting for me to move. He writes, believes she can catch me. He circles the last line twice. The next day, Harper receives a file she did not request. It is anonymous, dropped through channels meant for tips, and it contains photographs grainy but clear enough. A man by the river, late at night, a figure that could be anyone but the height, the walk, the stillness of the posture. Harper feels her lungs turn to stone. It looks like Ethan. It looks exactly like him. She closes the folder, locks it away, and tells no one. Not yet. If she is wrong, she destroys a life. If she is right, she saves countless others. The choice coils around her throat. That night, Ethan appears at her door with flowers. He has never brought flowers before. She accepts them, smiling with the warmth of a woman who does not want him to know she is measuring every move. He steps inside, kisses her cheek, and notices the faint smear of ink on her hand, the kind left by fast handwriting in a rush. He recognizes it because his own hand wears the same stain. For the first time, he feels something near his ribs that is not control. It is not fear, not yet, but it is the knowledge that the game is no longer theoretical. She has begun to write his name where it cannot be erased, and Harper, as she sets the flowers in water, knows the same. The investigation and the intimacy have collapsed into one body. The next move either saves her life or takes it. The city does not change overnight, but Harper feels it as if it has. Every siren rings sharper, every shadow lingers longer. She wakes before dawn and lies still, counting the seconds between breaths, listening to the silence of her own apartment as though it might confess something. The trunk waits under her bed, heavier with every page she adds to the notebook. Ethan Vale's name is no longer a suspicion scribbled in ink. It is a presence that fills the margins. She has not told her captain. She has not told her partner. The case has become a secret even inside the department. She tells herself it is strategy. She needs more. She needs proof. She needs one mistake. But the truth is simpler. She does not trust anyone else with him. Ethan is hers. Her discovery. Her responsibility. Her hunt. Ethan knows. He knows not from words or evidence, but from the subtle stiffness in her smile and the way she lingers just a moment to long on his answers. He feels her attention like a wire stretched between them, vibrating with questions she has not yet spoken. He tells himself it is manageable. He tells himself he has always been ahead. But every time she looks at him now, he feels the faint taste of calculation at the back of his tongue. She is close enough to measure him, and that is a distance he has never allowed before. They walk together by the river, the one place she should never have agreed to go. The current moves black and heavy, reflecting the faint bruise of a sky without stars. Harper keeps her hands in her pockets, not for warmth, but to keep them steady. Ethan walks beside her, posture relaxed, but his eyes flicker across the waterline. With a precision she cannot ignore, she wonders if he is remembering or planning. She cannot decide which is worse. You ever think about how cities keep their secrets? Harper asks, her voice casual, her gaze fixed on the lights across the water. Ethan considers. Cities don't keep secrets. People do. Cities just bury them until someone cares enough to dig. She glances at him, and do you dig? He smiles faintly. The kind of smile that belongs to a man who has rehearsed lies for so long. They feel like truth, only when there's something worth fighting. The silence between them is no longer companionable. It is a battlefield without weapons drawn. Every step along the path is an advance, every glance a feint. Later that night, in her apartment, Harper makes a decision. She leaves the trunk where it always is, but she does not lock it. She leaves the notebook open on the desk, Ethan's name visible in black ink. She pours herself a glass of water, sits on the couch, and waits. If he is what she believes, he will not resist the temptation. If he is innocent, she will have risked nothing but pride. Ethan arrives unannounced, as if the night itself had invited him. He carries nothing but the same calm he always wears. She lets him in, heart steady, face unreadable. He sits, asks about her day, and she answers in half-truths. She excuses herself to the bathroom, leaving the desk visible in the corner of his eye. He does not move at first. He sits perfectly still, as though testing whether she is watching. Then, slowly, deliberately, he rises. His steps make no sound on the floor. He crosses to the desk and looks down. His name stares back at him from the page. The letters are sharp, final, undeniable. Ethan feels the moment stretch. A thread pulled to breaking. He does not touch the notebook. He does not close it. He simply stares, then lifts his gaze to the hallway where Harper will return. When she does, Their eyes meet in that instant. The mask between them burns away. She knows. He knows she knows. He knows she is certain. Harper does not flinch. She crosses the room, takes her seat again, and drinks from her glass as if nothing has changed. Ethan sits opposite her, the calm restored, but beneath it lies something raw. For the first time in his life, he has been seen, truly seen. You wrote my name, he says at last, his voice low. Even, I did, she answers, and you're not afraid. She sets the glass down with care. Fear is useless. I prefer clarity. He studies her for a long time, longer than anyone else would have dared. Then he leans back, hands folded, and smiles a smile that no longer hides anything. Then this. Ethan says, will be interesting, and just like that, the hunt is no longer silent, it is alive, breathing between them, as intimate as love and as lethal as truth. The air between them never returns to ordinary. Once truth is uncovered, it cannot be folded back into silence. Harper knows this. Ethan knows it too. Every meeting afterward carries the weight of revelation. As if they are actors on a stage that both recognize as theater, but refuse to leave, Harper continues her work at the precinct, her colleagues unaware of the storm she carries inside. She writes his name in smaller letters now, coded, disguised, as if secrecy might protect her from the betrayal of her own handwriting. The case files grow thicker. Witnesses describe a ghost, a figure, a shadow. None of it is enough. None of it can stand in court. The notebook in her trunk, the one filled with Ethan's name, could. Ethan lives as he always has, precise, careful, methodical. But for the first time, he finds himself drawn toward the danger of exposure, where, once he would have vanished, he now lingers. He visits Harper more often. He allows conversations to stretch into places he once avoided. He shows her pieces of himself he has never shown another soul. And in each of those fragments lies a confession without words. One night, she asks him directly, why haven't you run? He looks at her across the dim room, her eyes sharp as glass, her body ready for whatever answer he might give, because, he says, you're the only one who deserves to catch me. The sentence lands like a verdict. Harper feels the world tilt. She could move, then draw her weapon, make the arrest, end the game, but she doesn't. She lets the silence expand instead. And in that silence, both of them admit the truth. Neither will say, this has gone beyond law and beyond survival. It has become personal. The killings stop. The waterline grows quiet, as if Ethan has surrendered his art in exchange for proximity to the one person who knows him. Harper wonders if this is victory or manipulation. She wonders if he stopped because of her, or for her, or against her. The uncertainty is a chain she cannot shake. Weeks later, she receives the call she has always expected, another body by the river. The signature is different, messier, rushed, a copycat. Her captain briefs the team. But Harper says nothing. She knows Ethan's precision. She knows he would never break his own rules. She realizes, with a chill that feels like relief, that he has stopped. That night, she visits his apartment without warning. He lets her in, no surprise in his eyes. They sit in the half-light. To predators who have learned the shape of each other's shadows, she tells him about the copycat. He listens, nodding, saying nothing. At last she asks, will you ever kill? Again, he answers without hesitation, only if you stop watching me. It is not a threat. It is a truth, laid bare between them. Harper feels the weight of her badge against her chest. She thinks of the oath she swore, of the victims whose families still wait for closure. She thinks of the trunk under her bed and the name written 100 times in her own hand. And then she thinks of him, the man across from her, the system, made flesh, the predator who has become her mirror. She can end it. She should end it. But she does and single quotes T. Instead, she rises, takes her coat, and walks to the door. She turns back once, meets his eyes, and says, then I'll never stop watching. Ethan smiles, slow and certain, as if the words were the only promise he has ever needed. And so the story closes, not with handcuffs or headlines, but with an unspoken contract, the detective and the killer, bound by knowledge and drawn by obsession, circling each other forever. The city sleeps uneasily, unaware that its quiet is kept not by justice, but by the strangest of truces. For Ethan Vale and Harper Reed, the hunt is no longer about capture or escape. It is about recognition. It is about the terrible intimacy of being truly seen. And somewhere beneath the city, where the water moves dark and endless, the ghost of the waterline waits silent witnesses to a game that has no end.